You're giving someone feedback. They're nodding, but you see that they're already shut it down. Well, maybe you're doing it a little bit wrong. Maybe you're using a famous shit sandwich technique. Compliment, then criticism, then compliment again. This seems polite, and maybe you think you're softening the blow, but in reality, this is one of the most broken ways to give feedback. I'm Greg, co founder of Bismarck Communication Studio, and for more than 10 years, I've been helping different teams fix their communications. And today, I'm going to tell you why this sandwich technique doesn't work, what to use instead, and what science says about it. This sandwich technique became popular in late 80s, early 90s in corporate trainings, and it happened for a reason. Workplace environment was way more hostile back then, probably. And shouting at employees was kind of a standard business practice, I guess. So the idea that you are softening the blow by adding some compliments into criticism was very refreshing and even revolutionary. But here's what actually happens in practice. Giving feedback like that is not giving feedback. It's teaching people to fear your compliments and wait for criticism all the time. There are several reasons why sandwich technique doesn't work. Let me quickly walk you through them. The first reason, called a serial positioning effect. And it says that people tend to remember the beginnings and the endings of the messages way better than they remember the middle. So if person is not yet used to this technique, they would probably just skip the criticism part and only remember the positive. The second reason is that this technique over time destroys trust. People start to figure out that you are complimenting them, but immediately after you're criticizing. So they tend to, as soon as they hear any compliments or any praise, they tend to just brace for impact and wait for the bad thing to happen. The third reason is that sandwich technique crushes motivation. When people get used to this process, they start to feel that the praise is not very authentic, that you are not really trying to thank them for doing their work good, but instead you're just sugarcoating the message. So when the praise feels unauthentic, people just lose intrinsic motivation. And this is how this approach to feedback destroys motivation in teams. So if the sandwich technique doesn't work, what works instead? Well, before we go into a better framework for feedback, let's figure out some principles that will give you an ability to consistently give useful and helpful feedback that actually makes a difference. There are three main principles. The first principle is that feedback should be given timely, but not too close to the event. Giving a feedback on failed presentation immediately after this presentation failed wouldn't probably be such a good idea. Emotions are still raw, and the person will probably just wouldn't be able to listen to you. Instead, try waiting for about a day and giving feedback then. This way, emotions will settle, but the memories will still be fresh, so you will have a good conversation. The second principle is that feedback should be specific. Don't use any vague observations like good work or bad work, and don't talk about patterns without specific examples, like you are always late. This is a bad thing. You were late 3 times in the last month. This is way better. The third principle is that feedback should be action-focused, not personality-focused. This means that you are talking about actions person make instead of their personality traits like being lazy or being not very productive or being not very, optimistic at work. So when you're saying about personality traits, this is not very helpful for the person and it makes them usually defensive. Instead, when you're talking about specific actions, this is quite easy to digest. Well, how to put these principles to work? I think that you can use different frameworks. You can search some and you can choose whatever you prefer as long as they follow those principles. However, after years of work, I find one framework in particular very effective, and I know that many of my clients use it as well. So I think you can use it too. This is called AID: action, impact, desired behavior. Let's go step by step. The first one, action. Talk about a specific action that the person did that you want to discuss. For example, last week at the client's presentation, you've interrupted the client 3 times. Then impact. What impact it had on the situation. You can say that you've interrupted client 3 times, and this probably made them disengage from the conversation and stay disengaged until the end of the call. And the last one, D, desired behavior. Now you can tell the person what you want to expect from them in future. For example, you might say, I understand you want to contribute, so next time, just wait for 2 or 3 seconds to see if the client is done talking, and then you can jump right in. This way, the client will feel fully heard. And notice what's missing. No but in the middle, because we know that everything that goes before but is just rubbish. So this way, you can avoid doing that, and you can still provide helpful feedback to the person. So that's it. You're ready to give great feedback all the time? Well, almost. There's one more important thing to mention. If you use this framework or any other framework only in situations where you want to correct someone, it will probably still cause some tension and anxiety around feedback process. So to avoid that and to become even a better communicator, you can try using the same technique to give positive feedback instead of correcting one. Because usually when we give positive feedback, it still do not follow those principles of effective feedback. And you usually just end up hearing, good job, you've done very well. And this is not very motivating as well. So you can try applying the AID framework for positive feedback, and this is how it might go. You might say, for example, hey, yesterday on the workshop, you've asked 2 clarifying questions when the group got a little bit stalled. This is action. Now the impact. This way, it helped us to get engaged with the material we were trying to analyze and get better results. Now, desired behavior. Keep doing that. This is exactly the kind of initiative we're looking for. Research shows that this kind of positive feedback that is very specific, given timely, this actually has a great impact on teams' morale and trust building inside the organization or the team you're leading. So here's the bottom line. If you want to give clear, useful, and very honest feedback, but without being disrespectful or rude to your colleagues, use the principle of effective feedback, use frameworks for effective feedback, for example, AID, and don't forget to use it not only in the situations when you want to correct someone, but also in the situations you want to thank someone for their job. If you want to see more communication tips that are science-based and proven by practice, subscribe to this channel. We will share a new one every week. And with that, thanks for watching and see you next time.